DRI treated me so poorly and without any professionalism, so I requested that they deal with my lawyer. Wasofka seems to think that means they have no obligation to keep me informed, but instead I should call my lawyer at my expense to keep updated. Your latest filing suggests that you will be expecting me to be out of my home in early spring of 2016, whether we have agreed upon a fair value or not. What happened to starting the project so at the north end of the project so we'd have more time in our homes? This is wonderful news for the holidays that I've been given. Mr. Fabian says it was decided in September, but Wasofka didn't think it was necessary to personally inform me. Your agent has refused to use a replacement home with the same square footage as my home. Always, it's under by at least 1,000 square feet and never over. None of the homes have had the same acreage because it is not legally required. What about your promise to compensate us fairly? You are required to offer me the value of a home based on the same square footage, and I would appreciate it if they could get this done by using a similar home instead of always a lesser home. Also, we were told that the offered money would be in an account available for property owners to use to buy a replacement home if I found one. There are so many strings attached to this money that if I were to find a home on my own, I could not buy it today because the funds are not available without strings attached and under close scrutiny. Once again, can you have somebody let me know what the hell's going on in a timely manner?
Item number 4 is approval of November the 12th, 2015 minutes. I need a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman, staff is going to request that you hold off approving the November minutes until our meeting in February. There is an incomplete report of action taken in closed session, and we need to access the tape to get that corrected.
Thank you. Review of monthly year-to-date revenue and expenses.
Morning, Mr. President, members of the board. This update reviews the revenues and expenditures for October 2015. Revenue for the period included $64,000 in state reimbursement for work on the Regional Flood Management Plan. And in October, finance accrued the zero land value flood assessments for the year. The invoices for those assessments went out in December, and they're coming back in now. Expenditures for the month were primarily on the Southport project, of about $1.4 million. Of that, the expenditures, $976,000 approximately, were for our land acquisition cost, both in escrows and deposits with negotiations and eminent domain actions. The agency's cash position at the end of October was approximately $12.1 million. As we ramp up the project, getting closer to 100% design, and we're executing the real estate plan, staff is working with finance on several cash management strategies to advance the project and also to manage short-term gaps that are going to occur as the project moves forward. We recently executed the amended funding agreement with the state, so that gave us a point to go back to the state and request true-up payments, and we sent them a schedule of 4 payments we'd like to receive that total $6.7 million, and these are just various straightforward adjustments they can make based on the allocated cost share memo and outstanding work that's been done already. we continue to work with the state on getting those pushed forward, and also to get them to approve the real estate plan so that we can start securing 50% of their cost share for real estate acquisition. The agency and finance division have also met with local banks recently to begin the first steps to establish a short-term line of credit so that if we have some small gaps coming in for a month, that we can get cash on hand and keep the project moving forward while true-up money comes in from the state. Finance staff is also looking at the unencumbered balances in the Fund 870, the Inlufi Fund, and with Measure V, in case we need a near-term cash contribution to keep the real estate acquisition process moving forward, keep it going smoothly. Also, we're looking at, if we need to, short-term borrowing, internal borrowing between the city and the agency. If we do that, we'll come back in the near future. And that kind of borrowing is just to keep our books clean within the fiscal year. It just manages cash flow, keeps it fluid and moving forward. So that's a cooperative thing that the city and the agency can do. And if we need to do that, we'll come back in the future to discuss that. But I just wanted to recap that we have several strategies that we're working on right now to make sure that we keep this thing going forward. And that ends the cash flow report for the month.
So the in lieu of fee that has been collected, I mean, it hasn't been much, but at the same time, there's been some monies that are collected. And there is an issue as far as the use of a road or whatever, those in lieu of fees. Have you been working with our staff, i.e. the city, to resolve that and going to bring back a report to us?
Yes, my understanding that is in January, Finance will bring a report to the agency board to update you and bring you up to speed on what's been going on with the in lieu fee. I think recently we allocated some of the in lieu fee for the project identification report update. I believe some work on the storm drain master plan.
Okay.
Is being funded by that.
You're coordinating this with the city, though?
I'm not coordinating, or the agency hasn't been coordinating it. We're working much closer now because we've identified the issue that we haven't been coordinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So January, you'll probably get some more information on that.
January the 15th is,
Okay.
January the 15th is when the report's going to come back to us.
I believe so.
Okay.
Roughly.
Okay.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that the board would like to place on the open agenda, or may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by staff?
Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending that we delete the ELA Investment Partners parcel from item 7 on the consent agenda and from Resolution 15-12-06.
And with those instructions and corrections, I would move for approval of the consent items.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded, the consent items with those errors, or with those instructions, be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. There are 5 public hearing items today, and after the presentation by staff, each item will be open for public hearing to receive comments for the public. Once the public has had the opportunity to speak, the public hearing will be closed, and the board will vote to approve or disapprove the item presented by staff. Public hearing and consideration of Resolution 15-12-01, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. Yolo County Assessors Parcel Number 046-030-001 015-000, 046-030-016000, and 046-030-029-000. The public hearing is now in session.
Good morning, President Denton, members of the board. Today, as you said, I will be presenting 5 resolution necessity for the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project for your consideration. I'll discuss the goals for the project, a brief overview of some of the decisions made to advance the project to its current design, and then I will present information on the required findings for resolutions of necessities. As I've been here before, this is a public safety project, a very important one for our city. West Safeco's overarching goal is to provide 200-year flood protection to the city and to its residents with the least amount of harm to private property. Our intention is to design and construct a project that will achieve 200-year flood protection that maximizes the use of local resources. As you know, the problem identification report was completed for the entire flood control system and identified a number of deficiencies. Alternatives analysis was developed to analyze known deficiencies and propose solutions to such deficiencies. Through that process, Southport was selected in 2010 to address significant levee deficiencies along the Sacramento River. In 2011, preliminary design report was completed, which analyzed the deficiencies and solutions to address said deficiencies. Since the final preliminary design report, the levee design has advanced from 15% to 65% to now 90% complete. Even as I speak, the Board of Senior Consultants is meeting across the street to comment on and close out comments that they've had in previous opportunities. Village Parkway design is complete and underway. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And the project team anticipates that levee design will be completed this calendar year, or actually at the beginning in January, and bid out in the spring. And it's that reason that we're dealing with 5 resolutions of necessity to try to keep to a construction schedule. So prior to the preliminary design report, staff presented the design decision hierarchy to West Safeco Board to help deliberate on solutions that address known deficiencies. So as I've talked about already, identifying deficiencies, what are some solutions, how do we maximize impacts and how do we minimize impacts and maximize benefits? Sorry about that. So there were 3 combined measure alternatives that were developed through the design process. Combined measure 1 included adjacent levee with berms, adjacent levee with cutoff wall. Next, we went to a setback levee with berms, had adjacent levee with cutoff walls. This included a partial levee degrade and was really the basis of where our current design is in many ways. And there was also a combined measure alternative 3 that included fix in place with seepage berms. And part of this was also adopted as the final design. To help the board deliberate on what is the best way to move forward, the West Safeco team presented 2 guiding principles to selecting a preferred design alternative. One was to develop a project that provides the greatest amount of protection to the city as soon as possible, and secondarily, to minimize the effects on the community while still achieving the first objective. The combined measures of adjacent levee with seepage berms, setback levee with seepage berms, and fix in place with seepage berm designs was assembled to produce 2 ultimate design alternatives. Those were both brought to 15% complete. We looked strongly at local costs with the adjacent and the slope flattening. The second alternative also was, look at costs relative to local resources and our potential to provide the greatest amount of good and complete the reach from where the Army Corps of Engineers completed just south of the Barge Canal all the way to the city's southern border. The West Safeco Board approved advancing segment A through G, where flood risk reduction solutions were common to both alternatives. Value engineering studies were also completed for segments F and B in May and August of 2012. And based on the feasibility of the measures evaluated, the impacts to private property, the cost effectiveness, and the ability to maximize flood protection for Southport and the city, the West Safeco Board directed the project team to integrate the preferred design alternative into the project design for segments B and F. There are 4 findings that must be made in order to have a resolution necessity. First, we have to demonstrate that the public interest and the necessity of the proposed project. Secondarily, that the project is planned and located in a manner that is most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private harm. That the property is necessary for the project, and that the offer is made to the owner of record. Just can't seem to get that right today. So first and foremost, public interest and necessity of the proposed project. We know that there are deficiencies in Southport and throughout their levee system. These are some of the most significant. This includes a 5.6-mile levee improvement project. As I've already discussed, there's a number of solutions that are integrated into a single design that will provide 200-year flood protection, meeting state and federal requirements. This will protect over 50,000 people and an investment of $4 billion for the city through the community overall. Without the proposed project improvements, residents and businesses will continue to be at risk during a major storm event. As you know, the project is proposed in Southport, and it's intended to be compatible in a manner that provides the greatest public good with the least private injury. We know where it is. It's along the west bank of the river. We know about the levee deficiencies. We've talked about that. The design selection to get to this point was deliberative in its nature, emphasizing public safety, engineering requirements and constraints, the need for borrowed material to build a setback levee, habitat mitigation requirements, the impacts to private property, as well as the community fiscal effects, and West Safeco's ability to actually produce the levee. Property in question, as you pointed out, is owned by Seacon Financial and Construction Services. It's approximately 68 acres in size and located in segment F. It's at this location that the levee transitions from a fix-and-place solution to a setback levee. As can be seen from this exhibit, there's a small area in which the levee design overlaps an area for a future roadway improvement. Although the staff report indicates that the acquisition area has changed, it has not. Staff spoke with the Department of Water Resources about reducing the operations and management corridor, and our funding partners said they are steadfast in holding to having a 20-foot O&M corridor at the base of the seepage berm. So it continues to be there. This project will require 34.6 acres of property for the levee improvements and the O&M corridor. 1/4 acre is needed for an access easement for the adjacent property owner to the north, and an additional just over 1/2 acre is needed for a temporary construction easement to construct that access. It is expected that Seacon will replace that access to the parcel to the north when their improvement plans are submitted for building out their parcel map. However, we do not know when Seacon's development horizon is for this property, and we have endeavored to minimize the effects on their property to provide access to the adjacent parcel. West Safeco Board approved a just compensation offer most recently at the October 29th meeting. That offer was assembled and sent to Seacon after approval by the board, and the written, in the first week of November. That concludes my comments. That concludes my presentation on that resolution, necessity 15-1201.
The public hearing on Resolution 1512-01 is now open. And Mr. George Spear.
Thank you, President Denton, members of the board. My name is George Spear. I'm the attorney for Seacon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. First, can I just confirm that the board has received the letter that I sent dated December 8th? And that's part of the record, something you've had a chance to consider?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to go through all that. I want to see if I can focus on at least one thing that maybe you could actually consider and possibly consider modifying. And that is this access easement. And focusing on that, I'm not meaning to denigrate or diminish any of the other points contained in the letter which we incorporate, but for purposes of this morning, I want to focus on the access easement. Mr. Dirksen just mentioned that efforts have been made to minimize that, but with respect, I don't think that's the case. The way the access easement is drawn, and this is only necessary to serve an adjacent property owner. It's not part of the project. Where it's located has no impact on flood control. It's simply so that you don't landlock the neighboring parcel. We requested, and have requested since 2013, that that two things be done. That the access easement hug the property line so that it doesn't interfere with the development that my clients contemplate any more than it has to. And the staff report actually said that had been done, but obviously that's not the case. The other thing that we requested is that something be put in the easement document itself, in the easement that is going to be taken, which specifically says that this access easement can be relocated. As it's set up now, you have, I believe, legal problems with this easement because there is no description of the easement in the resolution. It's a legal description. It doesn't say what it's for. The resolution says access easement, or easement for the purposes of access. But that doesn't give any information about really what it's supposed to be. I mean, is it an exclusive or non-exclusive easement? Easements typically are one or the other. If it's exclusive, no one else can use it. It's like a fee. If it's non-exclusive, it can be used by others as long as it's available. That should be in the document. Most importantly, the document should specify that the easement can be relocated when Seacon does its development and when public streets are put in place that could accommodate some level of this access. As Mr. Dirksen said, we don't know when the Seacon development will be done, and that's strictly speaking true. So if we imagine that that development is delayed and this project is completed first, I'm confident Wasafka does not intend to continue to own the driveway to the adjacent parcel. And what will no doubt be done is it will be conveyed to that neighbor. It'll be his driveway. At that point, they just own an easement. There's no basis for them to agree to relocate it. Why would they? Unless maybe there's a sweetener that's provided to that owner But the result is you're creating a permanent easement with no provisions for relocation. That can easily be done. We request, with respect to this easement, that you include a description in the resolution of what the easement is for, a non-exclusive access easement. And we also request that you include within the resolution a statement that says that this easement can be relocated to a location that will provide access to the adjacent parcel at CECON's discretion if and when CECON or its successors, that development is completed. And if, you're probably familiar with this, but it was on the slide 2 slides ago and also reflected on Exhibit 2 to my letter. And you can see a map, you can see a cul-de-sac which goes very close to this parcel. CECON will intend, if this design is built out, to just punch a little driveway through from that cul-de-sac. If you configured this easement so that it hugged the property line and then ducked in to the adjacent parcel at their earliest spot, it will be very close to the place where this access will ultimately be put. And it will not result in CECON losing any lots. The way you've got it set up now, CECON loses 5 lots. That's a problem for CECON, and with respect, it's a problem for you, because in the litigation, I'm going to be asking to get paid for 5 lots. And there's no reason for it. It's easy to fix, and we request that you do that. And I'm happy to address any questions you have regarding this or any of the issues.
Thank you.
I have one comment with regard to Mr. Spear's comments. The resolution has been amended to include the easement language, to include an easement document, so that the resolution does in fact include actual language around the easement itself.
That's in our packet right now?
No, it was, we don't dispute. So it's just, it was included in their offer package, and it will become part of the resolution.
This one here.
It will become part of
The resolution of necessity itself.
okay. And what you mean by that, it will describe that this is a temporary easement subject to a satisfactory replacement? What?
Tom, I don't know, I'm not sure that I know that right off the top of my head. I know that we provided one in the offer package, and we will make it part of the resolution.
If I can add, it strikes me there's no reason not to provide in the easement itself that it can be relocated at the property owner's discretion in a manner that provides reasonably adequate alternative access to the adjacent owner, and there's no reason for it not to say that it's non-exclusive.
And Jim, there's no reason why we need to be that specific in the resolution today itself, right?
I think you should be that specific in the easement document itself that you're now talking about attaching to the resolution. That's my
So is that
recommendation.
something that we can put an addendum to this agenda item number 9?
think you
Or
can-
do we need to,
You can understand that staff is going to provide that exhibit to the resolution that will accomplish those items. So the resolution you adopt will be a resolution with the easement attached, containing a description and providing that it's non-exclusive and providing that it can be relocated. Now my partner's going to tell me what it did wrong.
Okay.
I've just been shown the easement, and it does that.
Their concerns are, though, listed in this.
That is one of the concerns that is included in the correspondence, that's correct.
well, I guess if that has been corrected, I don't understand the misunderstanding. So I don't quite understand the misunderstanding then. If all of that's been corrected and easements can be moved, this and that. What's the issue? There isn't one now.
No, I think CCON does still have issues with the resolution of necessity.
Oh, I understand
They're
that.
described in their letter. This was an issue that could be relatively easily resolved, and we believe it has been with what staff is proposing to attach to the resolution if you adopt it in that form.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Not really.
Cindy? Thank you.
The public,
So, well,
pub-
Close the
public hearing is now closed. Is there any further discussion? If not, may I have a motion to, on Resolution 15-1201?
And I will make the motion that the board approve Resolution 15-1201, authorizing eminent domain action to acquire real property for parcels 046, 030, 015, 046, 030, 016, and 046, 030, 0229, Seacon Financial and Construction Company.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Public hearing and consideration of resolution number 15-12-02, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Sacramento River Southport EIP project. Yolo County Assessors Parcel Number 046-030-006-000, 046-030-007-000. Resolution provide the authorization to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire certain real property rights needed for construction and maintenance of the Sacramento River Southport EIP project. The public hearing is open on 15-12-02 resolution.
President and members of the board, this is the second resolution I'm going to present for you this morning. I'm just going to reiterate the findings necessary for the resolution. I'm not going to go into the long story that precedes that, the background. So there are 4 findings that are needed. First, oops. First and foremost, public interest and necessity for the proposed project. As we've already talked about, there's numerous deficiencies in our levee system. Southport is some of the most significant deficiencies. The design that we have will provide 200-year flood protection, meeting state and federal standards, protecting 50,000 people and $4 billion in community assets. Without the project, people are continued to be at risk during a major storm event. The proposed project is planned and located in a manner that's most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. This is located along the west bank of the Sacramento River, where we know there's significant issues. There was a deliberate intention to consider public safety, engineering requirements and constraints, borrow needs, habitat, impacts to private property, as well as the community fiscal effects and Waseca's ability to provide the greatest benefits with using its existing resources. The Luthra Trust property is approximately 6 acres in size and located in segment F. As can be seen from this exhibit, almost the entire parcel is needed for the levee and the setback area. 5.21 acres is needed for the levee and the operations and maintenance corridor and the setback area. Just .06 acres is also needed for the cul-de-sac at the future terminus of Linden Road, and 15 acres, .15 acres is necessary for a temporary construction easement to build the cul-de-sac. West Safeco's board approved fair compensation amount for the proposed acquisition at the August meeting. BRI then, our consultant for real estate, assembled a written offer and sent it to the Luthra trustees following the approval by the board. And the Luthra Trust, just so you know, the Luthra Trust parcel has been listed for sale for at least the past 2 years. However, the price Mr. Luther has countered at, the first written offer exceeds the listed price by 100%. That concludes my presentation on this resolution. Please open the hearing and ask for public comment.
The public hearing on Resolution 15-12-02 is now open. Yeah, I've got one more, but it's not for this. Yeah, a different one. Yeah, no further comment. The meeting is, the agenda item number 10 is closed.
Mr. Chairman, can I raise an issue that we can resolve relatively quickly and easily? I'd like the minutes to be relatively clear, that they reflect that when Resolution 15-12-01 was adopted, it was adopted with the form of easement that I discussed in my comments being attached to the resolution. Can we get agreement that the motion second?
I agree with that.
Okay.
That's my intent of my motion.
That's what I thought. The second agrees as well, I take it?
Yeah, do you guys agree?
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, sorry about that.
Well, you need to make sure it gets down in the minutes. Okay.
Minutes reflect that the resolution was adopted with the form of grant of easement that I discussed
Right.
as an attachment.
All right.
I would propose a motion to approve Resolution 15-12-02 as presented.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that Resolution 15-1202 be approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 11 on the agenda, public hearing, consideration of Resolution 15-1203, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. Yolo County Assessors Parcel Number 046-040-004-000. Resolution 15-1203 provides for the authorization to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire certain real property rights needed for construction and maintenance of the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. The public hearing on Resolution 15-1203 is now open.
Again, we need to make 4 findings for the resolution necessity. First and foremost, that the public interest necessity for the proposed project. We discussed the fact that this is a needed fix for known deficiencies in the Southport levee. That the project has been designed to address the known deficiencies in Southport and provide 200-year flood protection, protecting over 50,000 people and $4 billion in community assets. Without the project improvements, residents and businesses continue to be at risk during a major storm event. The proposed project is planned in a manner with most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private harm. Spent a considerable amount of time to develop a project that will address the known deficiencies given the circumstances at the of Southport and the levee system that we currently have. A number of design solutions were evaluated in order to get to a design that provides 200-year flood protection, and considered a number of items, including public safety, engineering requirements, impacts to private property, community fiscal effects, and West Safeco's ability to deliver a project with the greatest benefits with its existing resources. The West Safeco Board approved compensation to the owner at the May 2015 board meeting. A complete offer package was organized, assembled, and sent to Mr. and Mrs. Avila on about October 25th. Our consultant, BRI, has made numerous efforts to meet with the Avilas to negotiate the acquisition. However, they have been unable to meet since the inspection of the appraisal inspection. The Avila property is approximately 1 acre in size and located in segment F. It can be seen from the exhibit. The southeast corner of the parcel is needed for the operations and maintenance corridor and the levee berm. This same operations and maintenance corridor is also the access to the future location of the cell tower and where utilities will coexist. 0.2 acres is needed for the levee, the operations and maintenance corridor of the levee, and 0.13 acres is needed for a temporary construction easement. That concludes my presentation on 15-1203.
The public hearing on Resolution 15-1203 is now open.
Nobody wants to speak on this?
No one wants to speak on it? Public hearing is closed. Is there any further discussion? If not, may I have a motion on Resolution 15-1203?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve 15-12-03.
And I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that Resolution 15-1203 be approved.
Aye.
All those, just a minute. Let me think here.
Okay.
Okay. If there be no objection, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Public hearing consideration, Resolution 15-12-04, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project, Yolo County Assessor's parcel number 046-230-056-000. Resolution 15-1204 provides the authorization to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire certain real property rights needed for construction and maintenance of the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. Public hearing on Resolution 15-1204 is open.
Thank you. Again, we need to make the 4 findings for the resolution of necessity. Proposed project is located in a manner that will provide it's most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. I've gone through the fact it's on the West Bank. Project team has went through a number of evaluations to come up with a design solution that provides 200-year flood protection to the city. Various deficiencies are seepage slope stability and geometry in addition to erosion issues. The design selection was deliberate and considered public safety, the effects on private property, mitigation needs and requirements, fiscal community effects, as well as our ability, West Safeco's ability, to provide the greatest benefits with its resources. The West Safeco Board approved the acquisition at the June 2015 meeting. Complete offer package was organized, assembled, and given to Mr. Rogers on or about June 23rd. Bender Rosenthal and staff have met with Mr. Rogers in an effort to negotiate possession and use agreement and worked with Mr. Rogers' attorney to address concerns related to the access drive-in and extinguishing existing easements. The Rogers property is approximately 14.4 acres in size and located in Segment B. As can be seen from this exhibit, a small portion of the property is needed for the levee and O&M corridor, and an access road is necessary to establish access for the adjacent parcel. 0.52 acres is needed for the levee and operations and maintenance corridor, and 0.58 acres is needed for the private road easement, and an additional 0.87 acres is needed for a temporary construction easement to build the road. Mr. Rogers sent a letter that he would be speaking today, so you can open the public hearing and accept comments, please.
Well, it's good afternoon now. President Denton, members of the board. I have a couple of issues. We were working on that easement, trying to get that resolved. That's why things got stalled out a little bit. I'm currently working with Bender Rosenthal and getting an updated appraisal. I think you maybe received that today. I saved you $5,000 by letting Bender Rosenthal do it, so I don't know if I get any credit for that or not. I have a lot of work to do on my property to get back to somewhat normal. Fencing, gates, a well, electric, and not to mention AT&T. Nobody's ever mentioned that. So there's a lot of work to do. I'm not up to doing it all, so I'm going to have to hire someone to do it. Also, I have a little problem with the maintenance fee on the access road. I don't know if I'm going to be responsible for everyone's private road. I need someone to draw me a map, draw me a picture, so I know exactly what I'm going to be responsible for. Their timeframe is around 10 years. I mean, heck, it could be 25 years. And my property will be saddled with maintenance on that road. Someone needs to take that maintenance over, whether it be West Safeco, RD 900, the city of West Sacramento, I don't know, but it needs to be revisited. And because 900 and West, I don't know how long West Safeco is going to be around, but Reclamation 900 will be here a lot longer than I will be, so that needs to be revisited and come up with some kind of a solution. I'm not sure what I'm going to be responsible for. Anyhow, thank you.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed.
You open it up for one more second?
Oh,
I forgot to mention that I haven't stopped anyone from doing anything there. They're welcome to, they worked on the road, they removed trees. There's an elderberry bush that's, was supposed to be removed yesterday, and that didn't happen, and I understand it's going to happen Monday. So time will tell. But once again, I haven't stopped anyone from doing anything. They're welcome to, all I ask that they notify me, and they have, so I'll let them do anything they want. Thank you.
Does that include picking some persimmons?
Yes.
If I might, let me just say two things. Mr. Rogers has been cooperative with us during the process. He understands the need for the private road access. We have discussed the maintenance previously, but we're happy to provide a map to tell him what the area that we're talking about in terms of the road maintenance and why there's an allowance for, in the appraisal, to pay for that maintenance over 10 years. So we're happy to do that. Our need, however, is to have real property rights, more than just a verbal permission from Mr. Rogers. Keep things clear and legal, and that's why we're requesting you continue to move forward. Thank you.
The public hearing is now closed. Is there any further discussion? If not, may I have a motion on the resolution?
Well, wait a second, I do have some discussion. Paul, with the issues that have been brought up, are they easily resolvable? Or are we working toward resolving them? I guess, did Mr. Rogers come up so that we wouldn't do this eminent domain agenda item? Or is it he wanted to delay that? Or is it that this is part of the negotiation, so to speak, and we are going to get those issues resolved one way or the other? I mean, I don't know what, the final outcome will be, but at the same time, is it something that we're working on?
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak for Mr. Rogers and his
Right.
intention to speak
I
today.
understand.
But however, he has voiced the fact that he would prefer not to go through this process. I'm aware of that. However, we've been working diligently through the attorney and through the Rogers family, and have not been able to come to resolution as of this date. Given the construction schedule that we have facing us next year, and given the delay in how long it takes to get agendized with the courts, it's prudent for us to take a number of resolutions at the same time, because we believe that construction will be beginning late spring, early summer, somewhere in this area.
Okay. But at the same time, as we move forward with this, we will be addressing these issues that have been brought up.
That's correct.
All right.
Bill, I'll just add, these are issues of compensation
Right.
that will be worked out, over time, hopefully, mutually agreeable. But the having the ability to be able to move forward if the need to go to court is there, is prudent for our agency to do, in my
Sure.
opinion.
No, I understand.
So with that, I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 15-12-04.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that Resolution 15-1204 be approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So ordered. The public hearing is closed. Item number 13 on the agenda is the public hearing and consideration of Resolution 15-12-05, authorizing an eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. Yolo County Assessors Parcel Number 046-230-057-000. Resolution 15-12-05 provides the authorization to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire certain real property rights needed for construction and maintenance of the Sacramento River Southport Early Implementation Project. Public hearing on Resolution 15-1205 is now open.
This is the last resolution for you this morning. We still need to make 4 findings for the resolution necessity. Proposed project is planned and located in a manner that's most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. The particular parcel is located in segment B. We know that there is, along the Southport Reach, there are a number of deficiencies that we're trying to address through design to achieve 200-year flood protection. This design selection, it was deliberative, and you considered public safety, engineering requirements, the need to purchase borrowed material, habitat mitigation requirements, the impacts of private property, and our own local resources to be able to provide the greatest amount of protection with the least, with existing resources. Sorry. The offer has been made to the owner of record. West Safeco approved an acquisition at the April 2015 meeting. A complete offer package was organized, assembled, and mailed to Mrs. Lacombe per her request in May. BRI has reached out to Mrs. Lacombe every month since May to discuss the offer. Mrs. Lacombe told BRI in July that she was seeking an independent appraisal. However, as of today, BRI hasn't received any information regarding the offer or the independent appraisal or a counteroffer. The Lacombe property is approximately 1.125 acres in size and located in segment B. As can be seen from the exhibit, a small portion of the property is needed for the levee and the operations and maintenance corridor. An access road is being constructed to connect Mrs. Lacombe's property to her existing driveway across the Rogers property. 0.29 acres is needed for the levee, the operations and maintenance corridor. That concludes my presentation on Resolution 15-1205. I understand Mrs. Lacombe also submitted a letter and will be speaking to you this morning.
The public hearing for Resolution 15-1205 is now closed. Is there any further
No, no,
discussion?
it's open. It's
Open,
It's
pardon me.
open for public discussion.
Is open for public
Comment,
discussion.
public
I was
comment.
just speeding it up, that's all.
Sorry, I'll be quick. Thank you, President Denton and the board for giving me the opportunity to speak. Also, like my father, I'm not here disputing it. I just wanted to give you a little update on where we stand. I do kind of dispute some of those dates. My offer was given to me in May, however, it did not include any of the maps of my property, and I waited 2 months to receive the updated version, so I technically got it in July. Anyway. Currently, I am in the process of getting an appraisal. I signed the contract with the appraiser in October, so that is taking place. We're not sitting on it, we're actually moving. I do have a couple issues that I hope to resolve with the city staff regarding the driveway to my home. So far, they've been great, very receptive and responsive to our questions and requests, so I don't look to have any problems with that. Really, that's it. That's the update. I'm so small, I have such a little part of the huge process that I just want to make it right. I have to live with it for the rest of my life, so, thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there any further discussion? If not, may I have a motion on Resolution 15-1205?
Well, not hearing any discussion, I will propose the motion that we approve Resolution 15-12-05.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Going to back up on one item. Item number 6. We didn't cover that. I missed it. It was in my package and I missed it.
No, that was covered
On
in
the
the
consent
consent
agenda.
items. On the consent agenda, it was
It's
passed.
approved unanimously.
Okay, it was there. I got it. Let's see, if there be nothing else.
It's this right here.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to have
Project update.
project update, and then I'd like to call on you for,
Well, I'm going to do it part of the update.
okay. Project update.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to steal Mr. Ramos's thunder. This week, we had we reached a milestone, and I'd like him to, if he would, share that with the rest of the board and the audience.
Okay, thank you. I returned Tuesday night from Washington DC with a successful trip, and I guess the most important thing that happened on the trip is the weather was spectacular back there. It was in the high 50s, and it can be pretty nasty this time of year. But the second one is that the Civil Works Review Board, which is the highest review of the Corps of Engineers, approved our general reevaluation report and motioned and approved and directed it to be sent forward with the chief's report to Congress for authorization of our project. And it's probably the highest milestone other than finally getting congressional authorization. And it took a lot of work of not only the Corps, but our partners at the state, and specifically our staff here. I went back along with Greg Fabian, and we gave a presentation, and it was kind of unique. No one at the Corps could actually remember a Civil Works Review Board that had two projects at the same time. And ours was approved along with SAFCA's American River Common Features GRR. And it was unique in the way that they were able to present them both together, talked about them being independent projects, but key elements in a long, progression towards improved flood protection for the region as a whole. And Rick Johnson from SAFCA did a presentation first, and then we came second, and then multiple discussions amongst the board members. They got more layers of review than we even have here with these independent folks. Very organized, but in the end, we were all commended on our presentations and how well we were prepared. And they got into some specifics, and they really wanted to talk about what they call the residual flood risk, which is still there, and how we go about handle that, and all the work that the city of West Sacramento has done here, and as well as our neighbors across the river, Sacramento and Sacramento County, were able to present all of the outreach that we do, and it was very reassuring to them that we were a community that could keep, that will continue to do that, and will be a strong local sponsor once our project is authorized and we get appropriations to move forward. So with that, it was very successful. With if they follow the timeline they have now, it should be transmitted to Congress by late March, early April. And there is indications that there will be a WRDA in 2016. So we could see our authorization by the end of this year. Let's all hope so.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you very much for the information, and thank you for devoting the time to go back there
You're welcome.
and help out.
Mr. Chairman, just a few updates. Currently, with regard to Village Parkway improvements, we've completed so far clearing and grubbing, tree removal, and we currently have where we have access, we've installed silt fence installations and temporary construction easements, project funding signs, and construction yard installation. Based on the current schedule over the next 4 weeks, contractor will continue roadway and ditch grading, drainage culvert installation, rock slope protection, and begin placement of aggregate base along Village Parkway from Gregory to Davis Road, as well as to all the access roads. In terms, you recall the Rivers Erosion Control Site, that construction project was completed in October. We're working on a few punch list items to get that complete. And where we have either purchased buildings, residences, or where we have permissions, we are beginning to do hazardous material testing and preparation for future demolition prior to the levee improvements getting underway. In terms of real estate, I think Mark alluded to the fact that our real estate plan is going through its final comments at the Department of Water Resources the second time around. I spoke with the program manager at the Civil Works Review Board at the Army Corps of Engineers, and he indicated that he's expecting comments this week and when they would be delivered to us next week. We will endeavor to turn that around as quickly as possible to try to make sure that the funds necessary for future other real estate acquisitions are proceeding forward. The only other thing I had to report is Mark Thomas and Company is providing legal easement descriptions back to PG&E. PG&E is close to being complete, is what we understand, and is trying to deliver everything to us before the end of the calendar year. So we know what the rights are, they have their design and hopefully their design schedule so that the relocation of utilities can happen as we move towards construction of the levee next year. That concludes my comments.
Anything? Bill?
Well, the GRR itself, when do we expect that to be completed? Goes through two processes. One of them's the stuff that Tommy went to, and then we have
So,
senior
right, so the next,
consultants or whatever.
the next milestone related to getting a congressional authorization is what's called the Chief's Report.
Chief's report.
So based on the acceptance of the Civil Works Review Board and their recommendation, they will make a transmittal, and the Chief's Report is expected, I believe they said in April of 2016?
It'll be issued. And they transmit it to Congress. It also goes to the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office, who will review it for compatibility or whatever, and also to the administration, to the Office of Management and Budget, to make sure it complies with the budgetary process. And then they will then finally do a formal submittal to Congress, probably late spring is the guideline, so.
One last question, I guess, would be the cross levee, South Cross Levee.
Mm-hmm.
How is that coming?
So we'll probably be bringing something to you at the next meeting on that. We've submitted a package to the Corps of Engineers for their consideration to get that into the non-federal levy program, PL 8499. So it's coming along.
Good.
And it hopefully will be
That
successful.
could be a holdup if we don't.
No,
It's in our GRR.
it's in our GRR for them to,
To be improved as part of the federal project.
yeah.
So if for whatever reason, that doesn't
Yes.
come to pass, we will still have it
Have it
completed,
there.
right.
Yeah, no matter what, in the end, once everything's done, that cross levy is planned to be a part of the system.
Meeting's adjourned.